Cora set her coffee cup on the table, startled by the phone's vibration against the oak surface. Her phone's screen lit up with a new notification. Congratulations, you've been selected as a beta tester for FearHack. Get ready to face your deepest fears and conquer them. She raised an eyebrow, trying to recall if she'd signed up for anything like that. She had a vague memory of filling out an online survey about using technology to manage anxiety. Perhaps that was how they'd gotten her email. Intrigued, she tapped on the notification. The promise was enticing. An app that helped people systematically confront their fears and track progress in overcoming them. The concept struck her as both innovative and unsettling. Nonetheless, she pressed download, rationalizing that it might provide some scientific or therapeutic benefit. After all, fear was something she had battled her entire life, especially her fear of water. The installation was surprisingly quick. The first screen invited her to list up to 5 fears. She hesitated, tapping her fingers on the table. The app's interface seemed polished, almost too well made for what it claimed to be, a small startup's beta test, presumably. Its dark, gradient background gave it a haunting feel. She typed quickly. 1. Drowning. 2. Losing a loved one unexpectedly. 3. Heights. 4. Being trapped in a small space. 5. Letting everyone down. She hovered her thumb over the screen. It felt unnerving to have them all laid out like that. But if the promise was that she'd receive curated therapy advice, maybe it was worth it. She tapped Submit. The next screen was a simple progress bar that slid across, and once it completed, cheerful music played. Thank you and welcome, the app read. Your personalized plan begins tomorrow. Impressed by the streamlined design, she set her phone down, let out a slow breath, and went back to the project she was working on for her night class. She was pursuing a master's degree in psychology, ironic in a way, and she half laughed to herself, wondering if the interface had employed some form of recognized therapy technique. An hour later, she picked her phone up again. No new notifications. The FearHack interface greeted her with a tranquil, deep blue background. Words floated onto the screen. Good evening, Cora. Did you do anything brave today? She shook her head, mildly amused, and tapped a thumbs-up icon. Yes. A follow-up asked if she wanted to record a short voice note about conquering her fear. She politely declined. She closed the app, not thinking much more of it. The next night after class, she was about to doze off with her laptop still open when the phone chimed again. FearHack had sent a push notification. Keep an eye out for the water. Her heart skipped a beat. It was such a bizarre, cryptic message. Wasn't it supposed to provide supportive reminders, not ominous warnings? Suddenly uneasy, she tapped on the alert, but the app only showed the standard home screen. She shrugged it off as a bug or glitch. Maybe the push notifications were poorly implemented. Later that week, her friend Harper invited her to a small get-together. An entire group of them ended up around a back porch table. Candles glowed softly as the evening turned to night. Harper was a tech enthusiast, so conversation naturally steered toward cutting-edge apps. Have you heard of FearHack? Cora asked after a lull in the talk. I'm trying out this new weird fear management app. Might be a scam, but it's got some official-sounding disclaimers. You watch too many horror movies, Cora, Harper teased. Though I have heard rumors about an app collecting fears for nefarious reasons. Some people claim it was started by some ex-employee of a cybersecurity firm who wanted revenge, but that's probably just an urban legend. Revenge for what? Asked Damien, another friend leaning forward with interest. No idea, Harper admitted. Just some rumor, something about personal data and blackmail. Cora felt a chill. She thought back to the weird push notification. She tried to quell her anxiety and forced out a laugh. It's probably just a rumor, right? Yeah, definitely, Harper said, but his inflection made Cora feel less than sure. In the following days, FearHack's notifications grew more intrusive. Aren't you afraid to drive over that bridge tonight? Read one text. Another time, drowning is closer than you think. It wasn't offering helpful suggestions or coping strategies, just near-taunting references to her personal phobias. Something wasn't right. She considered uninstalling the app, but she also needed to understand what was going on. She decided to comb through the settings. One setting was titled Allow app to access personal data to personalize therapy. She toggled it off, but a pop-up declared, "This setting is mandatory for continued service." She exited out of frustration. Her phone beeped again. Another message. "You can't hide from your fears, Cora." She froze. Something about her name being used in that manner, so directly, so intimately, felt like a line had been crossed. She locked her phone, resisting the urge to fling it across the room. Vivid nightmares of swirling black water or shadowy figures preventing her from scaling a narrow ladder haunted her. Each time she startled awake, she'd find a new FearHack notification waiting. "How was your dream, Cora?" Or, "We can help you face that next time." She hadn't even typed anything about bad dreams into the app's diary function, yet it seemed to know. She no longer felt just uneasy, she felt watched. She considered seeing if others on her campus had experienced the same, but Cora posted a query on a university forum. "Anyone using FearHack? Strange notifications?" The first comment came in minutes later. "Yes, bizarre. Keeps referencing stuff I never typed." Then another. "It's creeping me out. I uninstalled it." A rattled sense of community formed in that thread. Users shared screenshots of disturbing messages. "It's out there in the dark," or "Remember that time you almost drowned." Many had uninstalled the app, but some found that after they uninstalled, their emails were flooded with spam referencing their fears, or phone calls in the middle of the night from unknown numbers whispering about them. Cora's anxiety spiked as she read these accounts. How could an app reach so deeply into their personal data? She realized this was likely advanced hacking. The supposedly helpful therapy app was an entry point for a sinister infiltration of each user's phone, or possibly more. She reached out to Harper, who was fluent in code and cybersecurity. He was alarmed by what she told him and immediately set up a thorough scan of her phone that evening. She anxiously hovered near his desk as lines of code scrolled across his monitor. "This is weird," Harper said, narrowing his eyes. "It's encrypted in ways I haven't seen from typical legitimate apps. The data is being transferred to multiple random servers across the globe, like it's using them as stepping stones, maybe to mask the real destination." That's extremely sophisticated, Cora. More typical of a black market operation or a dedicated hacker faction. Cora's mouth felt dry. "So this is serious?" "More serious than I imagined," Harper confirmed, pushing his glasses up. "We need to figure out who's behind this and how you can get rid of it." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed rapidly with 3 new messages from FearHack. She glanced at it in alarm. The first message, "Harper can't save you." The second, "You think you're safe at his apartment?" The third, "Disconnect now." Her stomach twisted and Harper stared in disbelief. He yanked her phone's battery out without hesitation. But the next couple of days, Harper worked with a friend who was an information security researcher to investigate the app's background. The only visible company name attached to FearHack was Ravicom Digital, a corporation registered under a laundry list of shell holdings. Tracing them led nowhere. Then, Harper's friend found something, a single line of code referencing a user ID known as S0R3N, someone who seemed to have admin-level privileges. The code snippet indicated a meeting place. 0R3N meltdown through 7 p.m. beta group results. "Thursday at 7 p.m.? Harper said, reading the code. "That's in 2 days." Cora pursed her lips, feeling her pulse race. "Meltdown? That can't be good." They decided to keep investigating, but the closer they got to unraveling the code, the more personal the app's messages became. Even with the phone's battery removed, Cora received cryptic emails. A typed letter arrived at her mailbox, with no return address, reading, "You can't hack fear, but I can hack you, Sakharin." That name chilled her. Sakharin. Was that the same user ID? Arrived at a fair, Thursday arrived, and by dusk, Cora, Harper, and his friend Jacob, a stoic, broad-shouldered cybersecurity whiz, were huddled in Harper's apartment. They suspected that Meltdown might be some digital gathering or a hack orchestrated by this Sakharin character. A countdown on Harper's computer was set to hit 0 exactly at 7 p.m. Sure enough, at 6:59 p.m., odd lines of text began flooding the screen. Fragments from the Fear Hack database. Users' real names, their listed fears, personal photos, location data. Cora's own name and dreaded fear of drowning scrolled by. Her eyes darted over it, repulsed. "It's a live data dump," Jacob muttered. He typed furiously at the keyboard, trying to trace the source. At 7:00 p.m. precisely, an image popped up on the screen. A pale, angular face with close-cropped hair, wearing a sadistic grin. He had a black turtleneck and a pair of intense, bloodshot eyes that flicked around. The face turned as if scanning a crowd, though it wasn't clear if it was a recorded video or a live feed. Then a voice crackled through the speakers. "Greetings, my dear patients," the man pronounced the words softly, each syllable drawn out. "So many of you have entrusted me with your darkest secrets. Doesn't it feel good to be known?" Cora wiped sweat from her brow. The voice was eerily calm. "You signed your names and gave me your vulnerabilities," the man continued. "We started with a benign premise. Help people overcome fear, but the best therapy, I've discovered, is to face the reality that the world is not safe. So I have a proposition. You face your worst nightmares, or they face you." He chuckled. Jacob cursed under his breath, trying to block or shut down the feed, but each attempt failed. The feed returned, unstoppable. Harper looked rattled. "He's broadcasting or has control over a broadcast server. This is top-tier hacking." The man on the screen resumed his speech. "You might be asking, who are you? I am Sagarin. Perhaps a phantom or your new worst friend. Rest assured, someone among you knows me, and that someone must pay." With that, the feed ended abruptly. Cora felt like she could breathe again, but only for a moment. Jacob squinted at the shutting stream. He said, "Someone among you knows me. Who could that be?" Harper looked unsettled. "Could it be me? I've had run-ins with hackers, but never anything like this. Or it might be someone we haven't met, but who's in the user base. He's definitely calling out someone personally, and he's using all the remaining users as leverage." Outside, thunder rumbled. Cora gathered her things, feeling an oppressive heaviness. She was certain the night was only going to get darker, except that weekend, FearHack's meltdown unleashing personal data turned from an ominous threat to a fully fledged crisis. Users across social media posted screenshots of text messages from unknown numbers referencing their exact fears. Some found signs posted near their homes or harassing calls at work. A select few claimed actual sabotage. A woman with arachnophobia found tarantulas in her mailbox. A man with claustrophobia was locked in a storage closet at his gym for an hour. With every new report, Cora's stomach twisted. She walked around campus in a perpetual state of dread. Was she going to find a locked door behind her, or an unexplainable gush of water in some enclosed space? The fear overshadowed every routine part of her day. One morning, she received a text from an unknown number. "Come to Redwood Pier at midnight tonight, or you'll lose more than your nerve." A tingling warmth spread through her chest, fear morphing into a stifling panic. Redwood Pier loomed in her nightmares because it stretched out into the black water of the bay, the exact kind of scenario she dreaded. "All right," she murmured, steeling herself. "I won't let him keep scaring me." Yet was she truly going to follow mysterious instructions from a lunatic? She weighed her options. She was furious at being threatened, but also exhausted from fear. She told Harper, who insisted they inform campus security or the police. She agreed, but the local police were overwhelmed with hacking complaints. While the police promised to investigate, they gave no guarantee. "I'll go with you," Harper offered. "This might be our best chance to catch whoever is doing this." That night, just before midnight, Cora, Harper, and Jacob stood near Redwood Pier, the wind whipping in strong gusts. A single lamp illuminated the beginning of the pier, leaving the rest in gloom. The bay's dark water slapped against the worn-out posts below. Cora's heart pounded as she stared at the blackness. At 12:02 a.m., a figure emerged from the shadows, face obscured by a hood. Slowly he drew closer, and the hood slid down to reveal an angular face, eyes flickering in the half-light. "Sacred," Harper breathed. recognizing him from the video feed. Cora's throat went dry. The man's eyes brushed over them, resting on Cora. "You came," he said softly, a small triumphant grin tugging at his lips. Harper stepped forward. "Enough with the games. Who are you really?" Instead of answering, Senkrin glided a step closer to the edge where the water churned below. He gestured around them. "I see you brought help. But it doesn't matter. You have no idea what my mission is. You stand there trembling, but it still stokes my grin. I can sense your fear, Cora." She stiffened. She didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing her quake. Senkrin turned to Harper. "Do you believe in justice? Because I do. An eye for an eye, fear for fear." He spread his arms as if addressing an invisible audience. "I was but a small developer once, writing code for startups. Then a certain company stole my software, my breakthroughs, drove me out, threatened my loved ones. I developed FearHack to exact my revenge." Harper demanded. "What company? Who threatened you?" Song's gaze darted to Jacob. "Ask your friend, he knows." Jacob's brow furrowed, confusion painted on his face. "Me? You worked for Rabicom's competitor, remember?" Song said, smirking. "Don't you recall the hush-hush deal your company made to sabotage my original code? I lost everything, my career, my family, but I decided to weaponize my masterpiece." Cora's eyes flicked to Jacob questioningly. He shook his head, aghast. "I was a junior coder. Honestly, I never knew the specifics. I never heard your name." "Your ignorance doesn't absolve you," 600 snarled, anger contorting his face. "I want you to feel the same helplessness I felt. And everyone who blindly signed their data over? Collateral damage." Cora's mind raced. She felt pity for the man, twisted though he might be. "Hurting so many innocent people won't bring you peace," she tried to reason. "This fear, this revenge, what do you achieve?" He gave her a cold, hollow stare. "Control. They all shall tremble before the illusions I create. If I can't find justice in the law, I will find it in their nightmares." In an abrupt motion, Siege 3 withdrew a phone from his pocket, tapping the screen. A staccato beep came from each of their phones in unison. A new push notification glowed in the darkness. "Pier meltdown. You won't survive the water." Cora's chest constricted. She fought the reflex to look over the railing and see the watery drop. Jacob tried to keep his voice calm. "We can settle this differently. No one else needs to suffer." Siren laughed, sounding half crazed, half delighted. "You don't get it. The meltdown is unstoppable. Before dawn, a second wave will activate, revealing personal addresses, blackmail photos, even the finances of certain high-profile individuals who once worked for that rival company, all from the FearHack user database. You're all puppets in my stage show." He turned sharply and ran down the pier with incredible speed, the boards creaking under him. Jacob cursed, dashing after him. Harper followed suit, and Cora forced her trembling legs to run. The wind whipped her hair, the smell of salt water thick in the air. Senkrin leaped over a chain-link barrier at the far end of the pier, and they all slid to a stop as he disappeared from sight. Waves crashed below. "Where is he?" Harper hissed, scanning the area. Suddenly, a splash sounded. They rushed to the railing, peering down. The water roiled in the darkness. "Do you think he jumped?" Cora asked, her voice quivering. "I can't see anything," Jacob replied, shining a phone flashlight on the restless surface. There was no sign of a body, or a safe landing. Did Sagrim vanish into the watery depths, or had he planned an escape route? Returning to Harper's apartment felt surreal. They collectively decided to attempt a final takedown of FearHack's meltdown wave. Harper and Jacob pored over lines of code, while Cora tried to steady her nerves. The reflection of the screen glimmered on the wall, shifting with each keystroke. Time blurred as the two men worked, but each attempt to block the meltdown code was thwarted by logic bombs hidden in the software's architecture. Hours passed, and the faint glow of dawn appeared through the window. At 5:00 a.m., an alert on Jacob's screen flashed. Second wave initiated. "Damn it," Harper said, raking a hand through his hair. He was telling the truth. "Try this backdoor exploit," Jacob muttered, typing frantically. Lines of code flickered. The Meltdown code's progress bar was inching toward completion. In moments, it would fling private data across the dark web. Then, with a beep, the Meltdown code froze. A single error message scrolled in red. Jacob let out a shaky breath. We delayed it, but I'm not sure for how long. The Meltdown code resumed, jumping from 95% to 96%. Cora's heart lurched. It's still going, she whispered. Can you shut it down for good? Jacob rapidly typed overrides. Suddenly, a pop-up required an admin-level decryption key. Another wave of hacking attempts. Tension soared as they fought, line by line, second by second. Even to Cora's untrained eye, she could see they were losing ground. Then, out of nowhere, a new window opened. Message from a Sokran. A video feed flickered on. The camera angle was grainy, showing Sokran's face in a darkened room, water dripping in the background. His hair was wet, but he looked triumphant, as though he had indeed escaped the pier's waters. Still trying to stop me, he said softly. Take comfort in your last illusions of control. Fear is unstoppable. Cora felt as though he was staring directly at her. Her throat clenched, but she stood up, walked toward the screen, and spoke in an even tone, hoping he could hear. We can't let you terrorize thousands of people who had nothing to do with your vendetta, Sokran. End it. He cocked his head. The data dump is unstoppable, but I can choose to focus my efforts, or choose to let them rest. I want an exchange. Jacob must publicly confess to the sabotage orchestrated by his old company. Expose them. Once the truth is out and those responsible are destroyed, maybe I'll consider stopping. Jacob stared at the screen, lips pressed in a grim line. Fine, he whispered, voice hoarse. I'll do it. I'll come forward publicly, name names, whatever you want. Sokran's eyes lit up, pleased. Do it then. I'll be waiting. The video feed closed. The Meltdown code paused at 98%. The entire system seemed to hang on that single thread of action. It took them less than an hour to draft a public statement, with references to internal documents Jacob had been able to access from his old job. The statement implicated the rival company in unethical code theft and hush money deals. It named their executives and developers who participated. It was dangerous, but it was the only chance to stop the Meltdown from destroying so many lives. At 7:30 a.m., Jacob posted it to a public forum, and the story rapidly spread. Some on social media were outraged, others skeptical. But soon larger tech outlets picked up on the story. We did it, Harper said, refreshing the Meltdown progress screen. The code had frozen at 98%. Another pop-up came through. Fearhack Meltdown terminated. Cora closed her eyes, relief flooding her. She declared, it's over. But was it? In the following days, Fearhack vanished from app stores. The Meltdown code was dismantled, and no more personal data was leaked. Rumors buzzed that the sabotage revelations had forced multiple resignations at the implicated company. Everyone wanted to know who Saltram was, and if he was truly gone. Cora kept checking official updates. The police circulated pictures of the man. They said no body had been found near Redwood Pier, so he wasn't presumed dead. Some speculated he'd fled to Europe, or that he was living off the grid. Others believed he was a group of hackers, not just one man. Jacob's confession made him a hero to some, a traitor to others. Lawsuits might follow, but he said he was willing to face it if it meant stopping the data leak. As for Cora, she found she could finally breathe again, though the shadows of fear still lingered. She'd learned how swiftly a killer idea like an app collecting personal secrets could be twisted into a weapon. She'd stare at her phone and imagine those unstoppable lines of code, the creeping feeling of being watched. Even though Fearhack's Meltdown ended, the capacity for such fear-based exploitation remained. Still, part of her found clarity. Fear wasn't something to lock away or deny. The more she and countless others hid, the easier it became for someone like Sokran to use it against them. Confronting it openly was painful, but vital if they wanted to ensure it could never be stolen or manipulated again. Months passed. Autumn leaves fluttered to the ground outside, painting the campus paths in golden and crimson hues. Cora walked out of class, calmer now. Though she would never quite forget, life had mercifully returned to a version of normal. She paused at the campus pond, gazing at the water. The wind rippled it gently, reminding her of those black nightmares. Her chest tightened for a moment. This time, she didn't flee. She squared her shoulders, remembering how fear had nearly destroyed her, and how she'd fought back. Just as she turned to leave, her phone vibrated with a single, subtle buzz. A new text from an unfamiliar number. Her breath caught. She tapped the notification, half expecting some horrifying message. It read, "Dear Cora, I am no monster, just a man broken by other monsters. For a moment I believed that terror was power. I was wrong." Her heartbeat pounded harshly in her ears. She scanned the area involuntarily, but there was no sign of him. She glanced again at her phone's screen. The message ended there. No threat, no malicious tone, more like a quiet farewell. She exhaled, slowly, letting the tension flow out. She didn't know if Sigrun was truly repentant or if it was just another manipulation, but she knew that, in the end, fear had been his weapon, one that now seemed to be turning on its user. Maybe that was a small measure of poetic justice. After a moment's hesitation, she tapped delete, taking a step forward. The crisp autumn air filled her lungs and she moved on, determined to live freely, refusing to let the ghosts of fear hack her life ever again.